Cause and effect. This is the law that we're going over today. The law of cause and effect. By the name, you can tell it's pretty self-explanatory. Every action has a cause. Every cause has an effect. It's pretty self-explanatory, right? So, to deep dive into this law, we're going to go over a couple of keys and a couple of examples on how this law plays a part in certain situations, in certain parts of your life, certain scenarios that you go through and that you've probably experienced yourself. So, we're gonna start up by a term that's used by many that you might be familiar with, that goes by the name of karma. You're familiar with the word karma. What does karma mean? There's a quote that describes karma, and you can say, what goes around comes around. To put it in simple terms, if you have bad intentions towards something, or you perform an act out of malice, this law might come into play for you. What goes around comes around, and is going to come right back to you, and sometimes in the least expected way. And that's the worst, because it comes back and gets you in the least expected way, whether you're aware of it or not. So keep this in mind, guys. So we're gonna go over a few key points that help explain what will be your karma and what will cost you bad or good karma. Okay? So we're gonna start by explaining number 1, action and reaction. Okay? So every action has a reaction, right? Everything you do will have a reaction. Whether it's small or big, it's up to the action, but it's gonna have a reaction. So, to put this into perspective in a visual standpoint, let's say that you have a ball, right? Now, you drop the ball, right? You expect the ball to bounce up, correct? Your cause was that you dropped the ball and you expected it to bounce back up. That's the effect. So that's cause and effect in action. Your intention was to drop the ball and you expected it to bounce up. So that's cause and effect right there. That falls under the category of immediate cause, which is one of the 3 categories of causes. It's immediate causes, contributory causes, and remote causes. So, the ball scenario falls under immediate cause. Why? Because you get your cause and effect immediately, on the spot. Your cause was you dropped the ball. The effect was it bounces up. So you witnessed the cause and effect on the spot. That falls under immediate causes, okay? The second one is contributory cause. Now this one falls under a larger time frame, because contributory cause can fall under the under the closest example I can think of here that could lead you to a contributory cause would be somebody that tells a lie, for example, okay? So say that person A says B, right? Now B causes C. Now C causes D. D causes E, and so on. It's sort of like a chain reaction, right? If you follow what I'm saying. So it's a chain reaction that you initiated by the lie that you told. Person D is going to start questioning it, then person D is going to start questioning it, then person C is going to start questioning it, then person B is going to start questioning it, and person B is going to say that you told them that. So now it falls right back on you. That's contributory cause. Now the last one was remote cause. Remote cause is pretty simple to explain. So the closest thing I can come up with from the top of my head as an example for a remote cause would be anything involving your phones, right? Phones, computers, anything that you can use and have an effect at something from a far distance. That's the definition of a remote cause. Being able to affect something from a far distance. It's not within your reach, but you can affect it from a far distance. So I can trace that down to phones and computers, right? Pretty simple, because nowadays you can affect anything from a click of a button, from a phone call, from a message, from an upload, a video, anything. So you can have an impact on the external from a click of a button, right? Everything you do matters. Everything you do will play a part in your life, and it will affect something. As small as it is, it will affect something. So now that's the first one, action and reaction. Chain of events. So what causes a chain of events, right? We were just talking about contributory causes, how you'll cause a chain of events when you tell a lie, for example. So thoughts lead to actions, right? Which then cause further actions. It's like a ripple effect. Now, everything you do has a consequence, no matter how small it is. So, for example, let's bring up an example that I thought about. Say that you decide to wake up early today, right? So on the regular day, you wake up at 10 a.m. Today, you decide to wake up at 5 a.m. to go out for an early workout. To go out to the gym, work out, and then go back home, right? Now, that's going to be your cost right there. You decide to wake up early to go for a early exercise, early workout. Now you go to the gym, you get your workout done, and you're out of the gym by 6:30. After the gym, you feel more alert, more energetic, and more alive by all means, right? Because you just got done with a workout, you just got your pumping, you're feeling good. You're feeling good because you accomplished something already at the beginning of the day, right? So that's gonna be your first effect right there, right? So your cause was that you woke up early that day and you decided to wake up earlier than usual to go exercise. Now you completed your exercise, you worked out. Now the first effect was that you feel more alert, you feel more energetic, you feel more efficient overall. You decided to wake up earlier than usual to go to the gym, right? Then your first effect, you feel more energetic, you feel more alert. Now the second effect, you go and prepare yourself a healthier meal. Now the third effect, you start eating healthier, so now that improves your mood and your focus throughout the morning. Now you're going to be more focused. Now you could tackle any tasks that you have throughout your day, at work, at school, if you play sports. You'll be more efficient overall. So this all got triggered over one cause. You see what I'm getting at? Okay, good. Now, another reference that I'm going over here is going to be how this all ties back up to one another. Now, this is going to go back to the fundamental law that we first went over here in this channel. And if you watched it, which I hope you did, you'll know what I'm talking about. Universal connections. So this goes back to the fundamental law that we went over, the very first one. Oneness. Everything is connected, right? Everything in the world is connected in the metaphysical world. So nothing is isolated in this world. Everything is connected. So everything we do is not isolated, but it is part of a larger picture, basically. So I'm going to give you an example that can put this into perspective for you. You go to the store, right? And you buy a tree. Now, you go back home and you decide to plant a tree in your backyard. You don't think much of it. You just want to plant a tree in the backyard, right? Now, say that you plant the tree, you get it done with. Okay, now that tree is going to have two effects in the physical world. It's going to clean your air, right? It's going to provide a better air quality, which is what trees do. And it's going to support wildlife, right? More wildlife is going to be happy around there. Now that's two effects it's going to have. Now you're also going to have two different effects on two different categories. You're going to have social effects and you'll have some psychological effects on yourself. So let's go over these. The social effects is going to be anything from, let's just say that it's an apple tree, right? Now it's fully grown and fruit starts growing out of the tree. Now what you can do with that fruit is you can start sharing it with people around your neighborhood. You can start sharing it with your family. You can start sharing it with your neighbors and become a better person overall, right? Now, that's gonna affect your neighbors' bonds, your community overall. You'll be strengthening your community around you. Your neighbor to the left, your neighbor to the right. Now, it'll have psychological effects on you as well. Why? Because if you actually grow out the tree to its full extent and you start getting fruits out of it, all of that, you start bonding with your neighbors, you're going to feel good about sharing yourself. You're going to feel better as a person. And from time to time, you might even think about the impact that you've had on the people around you. Who knows? Maybe your neighbor now wants to grow a tree himself because he seen what you have done with yours and how well you took care of it and how you've become a better person overall, right? It could be something like that. It's just an example how this one action of planting a tree in your backyard has impacted the people around you. Your neighbor to the right, your neighbor to the left. Now all of a sudden, all your neighbors want to be growing out trees. You see what I mean? You've impacted the whole neighborhood with that. It's just a visual representation of what a small action like that can do, and how everything is connected. Overall, everything in the universe is interconnected, and it's gonna have effects, ripple effects on everything around you, whether you're aware of it or not. That's the key word, whether you're aware of it or not. Understood? Now, we're going over one of my favorite ones, and one that it's a key that I actually really enjoy believing, because I have such a fun time believing this. There is no such thing as randomness. There's no such thing as randomness in this world, okay? There's no such thing as luck in this world. Back to the first thing here. Everything has a cause, right? Everything has an effect. So this goes back to the same thing here, to this here. There's no such thing as randomness. Everything that has happened had a cause. So this principle states that what might seem like a chance or like chance is actually the return effect of previous actions. So everything that has happened to you, you brought it up to yourself at some point in time. And it just got delayed a little bit, where eventually it came back to you. And you might not even, how I'm saying, most of the time you're not even going to be aware of why something happens to you. But everything that happens to you is a return effect of previous actions. Okay? So we're going to write that down. The definition of this is your definition here, guys. No randomness. No such thing as randomness. Everything that happens to you is going to be a return effect. Oh, missed the T. Of previous actions. Everything that happens to you. So when you start becoming more aware of that, you're going to start becoming more mindful of the things that you do. And that's for the best, to be quite frank with you. So let's go over some examples of when this key kind of comes into play, right? Let's say that you run into an old friend one time, okay? One day. And you think it was really random, right? So let's say that you're on your way home from work, right? And you decide to take a new path home to change the scenery, or just to explore a new ways to get home or something. Now on that path, you happen to run into a friend that you haven't seen in years. Now, you might think that's random, right? But that wasn't random. There was a cause and there was an effect in there. The cause was that you decided to take a new path that day to go home. And therefore, you run into your old friend from years ago. So somewhere in there, those two things aligned. You decided to take a new path to go home. The cause and the effect, you ran into an old friend. Okay? Another example. Let's say that you're in a rush to get out of the house to go to work, right? And you wake up late, and you're just getting ready, you're in a rush. Now, by the time you hit the door, you didn't check yourself if you forgot anything, or you didn't make sure you had all your belongings. You just closed the door and felt like you had everything, got in the car and went straight to work, right? Now, when you get to work, you come to find out you lost your keys. Your keys to maybe enter the office or something. Now, that was a direct result of you being in a rush right there. So you leave in a rush and you lose your keys. That was the cause and the effect. The cause was that you were in a rush, which therefore kept you from checking where was everything if you had everything. And the effect was that you lost your keys. Simple. There's no such thing as randomness. Nothing happens just to happen. Everything that happens to you might sound fucked up for a couple of people, but everything that happens to you is completely your fault. And until you can take responsibility for that, for everything that's happened to you, everything that you've done, and some people might be like, oh, what about this? Oh, what about that? Even if it sounds like it's not your fault, I think it's still your fault. Everything is your fault. Only you can change what happens to you. And even if it's something that really logically is hard to argue with, that, oh, this can't be my fault because this and this and this and that. Maybe you shouldn't be in that environment. Maybe you shouldn't be around those people. Maybe you should. It's still your fault. If it still draws down to the fact that you put yourself there. So figure it out. The last one. Infinite repercussions. Infinite repercussions. So one thing that we want to get stuck on our head is that I keep bringing this up about actions and how important our actions are, but I'm going to repeat it once again. The actions that we make have far-reaching effects that extend beyond our immediate perception. That is as simplest I can put it. So the effects of our actions can ripple into realms that we might not even be aware of. So we're not aware of what our actions do to the world around us. We're not aware of it because I can't even figure that out. And there's not many people that really can, unless you do a good work of thinking and, just sitting there and thinking, how can this affect? Some people might categorize it as overthinking, right? Overanalyzing. Saying like, oh, you're overthinking about it. You're overanalyzing it. You're really just figuring out how that one action can affect this, then what that effect can do to this, then what this can do to this, and then what this can do. You're just thinking about that. But just be aware, to keep it simple, just be aware of your actions. Try doing more good than bad. This always goes back to the same thing. Try doing more good than bad. And you'll be all right. You'll be all right. Okay, so I wrote down on this sticky note here. What can you do to apply this law to your benefit if you didn't take anything out of the explanation I just made? So there's 3 things that you can do to put this law into play here. So mindful decision making. every decision you make must align with whatever it is that you want to become, whatever it is that you're aiming for. Every decision you make must align with that. But then again, you have to have a clear image and a clear idea of what you want to be for that to be one of your priorities, right? So maybe that's where you need to start. You have to come up with what is it that you want to become, what is it that you want to study, what is it that you want to be in 5 years, 2 years. And every decision you make it align with your vision. And you'll be all right. Number 2, accountability and responsibility. So basically, take charge of your actions. Don't blame your problems on the external, on what happens on the outside. Don't blame your problems on people or situations, because that's just gonna hurt you in the long run. You need to be able to take responsibility and accountability for everything that happens to you, everything that has happened to you, and everything that will happen to you. Only then can you become that person that starts affecting their life positively. You're in the position you are because it's your fault. It's your fault only. Not because this person misguided you, not because, no, this person told me this, no, because this happened, and no, because this happened when I was 6. Doesn't fucking matter, bro. I'm sorry. But it's all your fault. Now the last one, harness your thoughts. That's a pretty big one there. So we went over this a couple of times on the last couple of videos as well. I'm gonna write it down because it's pretty important. I always emphasize this one. Harness your thoughts. Become aware of your mental patterns. What you're thinking. What you're saying to yourself. What ideas do you have? What are your plans? What is your inner dialogue? We went over this. So, that's always something to watch for. That's always something to make sure you're aware of. So, you can be more aligned with what is it that you want to accomplish, what is it that you want to become. Only when you make your thoughts align with your goals, then you're going to start making progress towards those goals. Because if you have goals or you want to accomplish something in your life and you're constantly thinking about something completely different than that, what do you think that's going to happen? You think you're going to get closer to whatever it is that you want to accomplish? Or you're going to get closer to whatever thoughts are going in your head? Remember, I don't know if I discussed this, but on average, the human mind has about 6,000 thoughts on average. So that means each person has about 6,000 thoughts coming into their head on a daily basis. Now, how many of those 6,000 how many of these thoughts do you think you're conscious of, or you're consciously putting in your head? Maybe 2, 3, 4, 5. Might not even be that many. See, what they found out with this study was that about 98% of these 6,000 thoughts are the same exact thoughts that you had the day before. You see what I'm saying? That's why you're stuck in the position you're stuck in. That's why you're still in the position you're in. Because your mind keeps on bringing up the shit that you were worried about the day before, the week before, the months before. You're still worried about the wrong shit, basically. That's why it sounds really crazy when you start telling people like, hey, watch your thoughts, watch what you're thinking about. What you're thinking about is where you're directing your energy. You're directing your energy towards useless drama and small talks and stuff that aren't helping you grow. You're doing a huge disservice to yourself, to be quite honest with you. So that's why we're here. That's why we're here. So hopefully you learned something out of this, and I hope you did, because we ended the last video on this note as well. How you gotta watch your thoughts. And it all just keeps adding back to the same thing, because you have to watch your thoughts. Be mindful of your thoughts. And attempt to control them a little bit. And that starts by disciplining yourself.